I've played this hardcore world for almost 100 days, and while I've spent a lot of that time building, I've never built a structure. So today, let's fix that by starting my first ever building project. Welcome back, my lovely viewers, to my hardcore world. In the last episode, we built this absolutely incredible forest that honestly, I love just walking through and looking at. In today's video, I really wanted to get started on the first ever structure in my world, which is the large church that I teased in the previous episode. But for that, we're going to need a lot of resources. So let's start today's video off with a quick resource gathering montage. Alright, so that is all the resources we need for this build today. It has actually been quite a while, IRL, since I did gather these resources, but I am ready to finally start this church build. Now, I did plan it out fully in creative. I was planning just to use Light Matica and drop it into this world, but after my little break, I went back and looked at it and decided that I didn't like it. I liked some elements of it, but I thought that overall I could do much better, and you guys deserve to see much better. So, we're just going to be winging it. Yet again, I'm just going to make it straight in this world, and I'm going to customize it to the terrain that I've got here. So, I'll be bringing you guys along for that journey, stepping in all the different building processes that you guys personally will need to go through for any of these sort of builds, and give you a little bit of insight into how my brain as a builder operates. So when I added in these two possible pillar structures, I noticed that the in-between was a little too small for the entire grandeur of it. So unfortunately, that does mean that we're going to probably bring back this build maybe by 5 or 7 blocks, just so that we can make this peak here a little bit more grand. So now that I have added in that extension, I am actually much more happy with that distance there. So we pushed everything back to make that, I believe, an 11 block gap there, but now it's looking a little bland out the front here. I had plans for adding in a courtyard, so that's why this space is very blank, but I feel like it's no longer working the way that I wanted it to. So we're going to try and bring in some of these angles from the back of the build into the front. Now, after working on the front of this a little bit, it's getting very evident that this block of villages here can no longer stay. It's really throwing off my guide plan. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time and I'm going to move them down to that flat down behind me. And hopefully we can get a better visualization of what this is going to look like without all this constant humming and harring. Alright, now that we've gotten all the villagers out of the way, we have a little bit more of an open plan to work with, and just like I thought, the front is a little bit wanting for attention, so we're going to work on building out the shape of it a little bit more. Okay, so now I have a layout that I'm a little bit more happy with. It is going to get tweaked, no doubt, while I build it, but for a basic floor plan, I am quite happy with this. So now, what is left to do is to build up the walls. I'm going to build them up roughly, just using stone, and I'll be adding texture after I've got the main structure. So let's get building. So after looking at this build from a distance, we can definitely tell that it has some major color issues, but that's something that we will fix as we build it up. But I'm also noticing that it seems a little off balanced at the moment, and that's because of this big section here being much wider than it is here. So we're going to try and add in something that adds a little bit more detail, whether that be a roof pitch change, another room, or something similar. We don't want to detach or detract from this section here, but we want to add a little bit more life. It might even be as simple as making this off center from the doorway. We'll see what we end up with. Now we're finally on to arguably one of the more fun parts of planning out a build, and that is tower structures. They really complete and bring together a large structure like this, so they are something that I tend to do at the end because you do get a little bit of tower bias when you build them early on, because they do look so good and complete a build so amazingly. So let's start them. I definitely want them to be a little taller base-wise than the rest of the structure. So maybe we'll go up to... Actually, I've done this on the wrong layer. We want them to be out like this, so that the main tower structure can be the 3x3. See, this is why we plan things and still, occasionally, get them wrong. That's why floor plans are so important. See how little time it's taking me just to tear down this little bit of a plan as opposed to the entire structure later on? It would definitely be a lot more difficult. Right, so now we've got all 4 of the towers in, and I'm starting to think that maybe the proportions are a little bit wrong and will need tweaking as I put the roof on. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to add the deep slate roof to that main upper section up here to see whether or not these towers need to be lowered or heightened. Now that I've put on the roof, I've kind of decided that I absolutely hate how small and how short this middle section is. It makes it look as if it's almost dwarfing this centerpiece that's meant to be magnificent, and in the original build was one of the eye-catching parts. So I think I'm going to go up there and I'm going to expand it, which might mean that our lovely little thing here that took us quite a while to figure out how we were going to incorporate into the roof might need to be moved or completely removed. This part though is taking my absolute priority right now because I don't know about you guys, but this looks absolutely trash right now. After making that adjustment to the height of the center, it looks a little bit better. It's still missing something that I'm hoping once I add the roof lines for the towers in, it'll sort of resolve itself. But if not, we're going to have to keep playing around with this up here, which is one of the struggles that comes with survival building. I normally plan a lot of my structures out in creative first just to save time. But with this one, I felt like that would be a little bit too cheaty just to copy and paste it into this world, because then the grind would really just be the resource gathering. But I did want to say, for any viewers that use mods like Lightmatica, don't be ashamed to do that. Minecraft is an at your pace sandbox, and you should never feel pressured to do what any YouTubers do. It's their job to make engaging content, and Minecraft isn't necessarily always engaging. It is okay to take your time with it. I mean, heck, it took me 100 days just to make this structure, so make sure not to rush. I'm going to now go in and add the roofs to the spires so that we can get a better visual understanding of what we're working with. Okay, so now that we have the spire roof in, I think it needs a little bit of tweaking, but I'm happy with the overall shape. So I'm going to copy it over to the other three spires, and we're going to then consider what we want to do for the spire shape itself, because currently it looks kind of terrible, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully we can get this build looking good in no time at all though. So now I have all four of the spires in, and I'm not gonna lie, something about this build does not look right even now. So I think I'm honestly going to have to play around with the shapes a little more. I might raise this section here up higher so that the roof line can look a little bit different, and I might add a jut out section at the top just to add a little bit more weight there, which unfortunately means that we're going to have to get rid of this little space here, which is unfortunate, but I'm sure we'll be able to add more detail without it being there. So after playing around with it for a little bit, we did actually manage to keep that little jut out in the roof, and I think it adds a little bit of visual interest there. I don't know if I'm going to keep it with that same roof pitch. I'll probably raise it up a little bit more or make it a little bit different in roofline, but I think that side of the build is actually coming along as my favorite. So now we need to address this side that is a little bit lackluster. So I think I'm going to bring out a section from that upper part of the roof just to add a little bit visual interest, not going to make it as tall as that peak, but we're going to bring it out to cover that section there. I think these aren't doing quite enough. This section looks really good with how the shadows are being cast by those different shapes, and I feel like this section is a little bit too flat. So we're going to once again play around with that, raise it up as we see fit, probably fill in this section here, this standalone building, to see what we're going to be looking at for this section. Now we've run into the problem again where I like one side way more than I like the other side. But this time it's actually all of this that I like way more than this here. So I think that's a simple fix. I'm going to bring it down. I'm not going to have it as tall as there because I still want some height variation and I don't want it to look completely symmetrical. But I am going to bring something out here to fill in this space where that's sort of a little bit irrelevant at the moment. I still haven't built up this section here that will be next on my list, but I want to get up here sorted much sooner. Now that I've added those couple of little details, I think I am finally happy with how the front of this build looks. We're not going to work on the back today. That is going to remain a mystery. But the front of this build with these swooping lines and these different roof peaks now looks extremely interesting, and I am willing to now move forward with the texturing of this build, which is going to be a massive undertaking all of itself. And I would recommend, if you plan out these builds at all, do your texturing while you are building up the walls. Don't do blank materials like I did. This is going to take quite a bit of time. Okay, it is now the next day, and I'm not gonna lie, the texturing is looking a little bit rough, but leaves are not the go for scaffolding. I was struggling so much, so I think we're going to take a little mini building break and go find ourselves some bamboo for scaffolding, because we're definitely gonna need quite a lot of it. All right, guys, so we are now back with the lovely bamboo scaffolding. I've got a couple more plants down there. We're not going to be running out anytime soon. But while I was adventuring, I came across a ruined portal. And I have enough obsidian to go there. And you know what was added in a recent update that I completely forgot about? Floating scaffolding. in the form of the Happy Ghast. So I think we're gonna go get that. It's kind of a little bit of a waste. We went all that way just for scaffolding, not to use it, but I think it's going to streamline this process so much better. Okay, so now I think I'm ready and geared up enough to take on the Nether. I am a little bit nervous, but I've got my shield, some scaffolding blocks, and a nice decent bow that I just got from my villagers. So I think it's time to finally go to the Nether. I'm a little nervous, but hopefully we get a good spawn, and hopefully we can find the Happy Ghast relatively quickly. Fingers crossed. Oh my, this is such a good spawn for the Happy Ghast. Absolutely terrible for actual gameplay, but we might be able to find it super quick. Hopefully. Wow. Knowing me, I'm just gonna jump into one of these ravines. Alright, there is a lot of guys around. Let's see if we can just get something and leave. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that is so lucky. I think I'm gonna pick up a little bit of soul sand and then we're literally just gonna leave. Wow, that is so lucky. Now, I actually don't know the first thing about how to tame and rehydrate one of these guys, but I think I need snow. So maybe we've got to head back towards spawn, I think in this direction. I'm pretty sure we spawned in some snow. Actually, I need to get a new shovel. I don't want snow layers. There we go. That'll do. So let's run over there, grab some snow, and hatch our first little baby dried ghast. I'm actually so excited. I know they're slow, but this will be my first time actually hatching one. Oh my god, look at this little cutie. Yes, you can have all the snowballs you want, you absolutely adorable little thing. Oh my gosh, best game add-on besides the axolotl. Oh, I might not have enough snowballs. Please grow. Oh, there we go. Oh, come here. Okay, how do I drive one of these? Oh, I'm doing it. Oh my gosh, this is making me so happy. Oh, okay. Now I'm feeling the spark of motivation to go back into texturing that absolute behemoth of a structure behind me. So I think we're just going to do it all. I am going to go into super fast build mode and I'm going to texture everything and add in the details so that you guys can enjoy a relaxing and calming time lapse while I get to enjoy riding around on my cute little friend here. If you guys have names, put them down in the comments below because this little thing is going to need them for sure. But let's get into it. So now this is looking absolutely incredible with all the landscaping and everything going on, but this section here has really been bothering me. I can't figure out or think of what I want to put here. So now we're probably going to just play around with a couple of different designs. I think maybe I'm going to have a flag or something there. We're keeping with the green theme for the emeralds, so we're going to try and bring in something like that there. Maybe add in some of these scallops or anything like that here. And I don't really know what we're going to do with this side. We'll put in those two, see if it looks balanced. If it doesn't, we might honestly just bring some of this tough texture into here to add a little bit of visual interest and variation. Alright everyone, I think that's where I'm going to conclude today's episode because the front of this build, yes, I know you're very loud, the front of this build is now at a place that I am extremely happy with it. I haven't done any of the major terrain changes. I've still got to plan those out a little bit more in my head before I commit to them fully. But I think that this structure looks absolutely incredible, and I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. But of course, the back isn't done. We're just gonna pretend like this doesn't exist back here. I'll fix it up in between episodes and put in a little montage at the start of next episode. But it's definitely not done. We're just going to pretend like that doesn't exist because the front of this alone has taken this many hours, and I'm going to pop them on the screen here and a little bit of a breakdown so that you guys can get a realistic understanding of how long these structures take. I know that this video has probably been massively delayed, and that's just because of IRL stuff as well as how long this naturally takes. I will be doing a full interior in the coming episodes once I start putting my villagers back in here, because after all, this is going to be my main villager everything. It's going to be my breeder, my trading hall, everything for this little town that's going on, but at the moment it's just a big cavernous nothing. So if you guys have any suggestions for any building interior YouTubers that you guys follow, let me know, because I genuinely suck at interiors and kind of just forget to do them a lot of the time. But that is going to bring today's episode to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed this longer form content. I understand if it wasn't as stimulating as other content out there, but I wanted today's episode to be relaxing and mainly focused on building. So I hope you enjoyed. If you like it, give it a like. That would be much appreciated. But I'll see you guys again next week. Bye bye.